This is going to be sort of a one down, a preview, whatever you want to call it, of the AFA mod, which will hopefully be released in the next day or two, assuming I can figure out this salary cap issue with the franchise file. Um, Obviously, first thing you're going to see here, the menus. This is a splash screen that I did. I think this is just the default EA screen here. Loading, start menu. So all the menus are basically customized for the mob specifically. I tried to change everything I possibly could NFL related. There may be one or two things here and there that I didn't get to. You wouldn't believe how many things there are when you really start looking for them. But right now, it is only franchise mode. Technically, if you did go into Play Now, the teams are on there. I'm working on a Play Now roster. For some reason, the teams show up twice on Play Now here. I'm not sure why that is. But the rosters are the same default NFL rosters. The custom rosters are only in franchise mode for right now. So if you go into franchise, the franchise file that comes with the mod, which I'm currently in the process of figuring out a really annoying salary cap issue with pretty much all the teams, but I'll work through that one way there. So you see here, everything is sort of customized, and I just got to run through the teams that are included in the game. We've got the Philadelphia Athletics, the Birmingham Bombers, Cleveland Bulldogs, Tampa Bay Bulls, New York Continentals, Carolina Cougars, Pittsburgh Crucible, Denver Desperados, Los Angeles Express, and as I just see here, I see for some reason Denver says Atlanta. I'll have to fix that. Los Angeles Express, Washington Federals, Phoenix Firebirds, Jacksonville Generals, Baltimore Grays, Minnesota Grizzlies, Memphis Hounds, Portland Loggers, and here's another one that's off for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. That's New Orleans Marauders, not Dallas. Miami Mariners, Dallas Marshals, Boston Minutemen, Scranton Pros, Detroit Monarchs, Seattle Orcas, Las Vegas Rattlers, Atlanta Redhawks, San Francisco Rush, Chicago Spartans, St. Louis Stallions, Columbus Stars, Toronto Wolves, Milwaukee Majors, and the Houston Wranglers. The divisions, the conferences, I guess I should start with, the National Conference and the United Conference. There's a whole backstory I have written up where it goes back, 100 plus years of alternate history, sort of how the league was set up. Basically, my take on it is sort of like what would have happened if the AFL was never a thing back in the 60s. The NFL continued into the 80s, and the USFL came along and was a real big success. And the merger happened between the NFL and the USFL, but it happened in the 80s. That's kind of the template I've gone with for this. The divisions are in the National Conference. I have sort of basic traditional division, Central, Southern, Eastern, Western, pretty straightforward. The United Conference, you'd have a little bit of a different flavor to the division name. You have the Rust Belt Division, Gulf Coast, Atlantic, and Pacific. And what I've done here, each team has at least 3 uniforms, a hung away and an alternate. There are a handful of teams that have other uniforms as well. Some of the teams that in the backstory I've written are like classic teams that have been around since the beginning, or from very early on might have like throwbacks, or, in some cases, the United League teams had, 1980s style throwbacks to, before the merger. I will see. I might have to go back to the other screen to actually show those. But the coaching staff, so I can find out with that screen. Use your staff. Actually, I have staff. The coaching staffs are all fictional, just like the rosters. These are custom coaching staffs, custom rosters. I've really gone all out to try to make sure that the names are as realistic as possible. Some of these portraits I want to change before the final release. So ignore anything that looks familiar, like what's that, Mike Vrabel, I think. That's not, I'll fix all that before the release. But I just, it really bugs me in Madden sometimes, or all the time, really, when you go through and you see some of these names they come up with, and the auto-generated names, it's the same way in Pilots Football 25. Just it really kills the aversion for me. So I've really tried to go out of my way to find, names not just for the coaches, for the players, and even for the draft classes that I've done that actually sound like real human beings and are actually feel like real people instead of just these random nonsensical sounding names like, CJ Mahomes and like how many Mahomes have you ever heard of, other than Patrick Mahomes? Um, so the coaching staff, they're all right now just generic faces, and for some reason, some of the NFL coaches apparently have found their way into it as well, but that'll be changed. If we get to the actual rosters, this is probably the most time-consuming thing that I've done, is actually putting these rosters together and coming up with, again, the names are the biggest thing. I have portraits for the players. These are, to the best of my knowledge or that I recognized, I tried to stay away from any recognizable players. You're not gonna see Patrick Mahomes or, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or, you know, uh, Josh Allen or whoever. Not gonna see them. So I try to keep it to either unused portraits or, practice squad guys or backups that, most people aren't gonna recognize on first sight. Um, for pretty much all the starters and some of the backups, but once you get lower in the ratings, mostly it's generic portraits. And if you can see, I really tried to work hard on the names here and try to come up not just with the names, but with some of the colleges too. And you'll get to see more of this with the draft classes that I've done. I originally wanted to do 10 draft classes, ran into some trouble with about half of them, so the initial release is going to have 5 custom draft classes. After that, you're going to see, hopefully, the other 5 at some point in the future. I'm not really sure exactly when that'll be, but it will be at some point. But yeah, I've really tried to make the players actually sound like real people, names that are actually, both somewhat realistic and, common, but also in some cases more uncommon names that you have never heard of, but are still real people's names. And in most cases, they are real people's names, not full names, but I wouldn't rabble. I literally have a list of like 10,000 first and last names for all different, ages and races that I could find on the Schitter's records and everything. But I really went deep on this to try and give it this extra little bit of immersion and realism. And so this is just some of the results for the Bigfoot Monarchs, which is going to be the default team in the game. If you go look at just the overall. The one thing that really bugs me, I had not figured out how to change some of these menu names yet, like where it says NFL. I've managed to change it. The team names will change, the conference, the divisions. It's a handful of things I've not figured out yet how to mob. This is one of them. Really kind of drives me crazy, but it is what it is. Um, let's see. If you look at the whole league, run down on the quarterbacks here, started at 99 overall, kind of work your way down. The roster itself, just a base, at least what I started with was a base start today roster. So just to make sure I had sort of a range in ratings that was realistic for what Madden would be. In this case, is fictional, but I wanted to keep it somewhat in line with what you would expect from a real roster. And so I use that as kind of the base, and then just change the player names and portraits and teams accordingly. Um, really tried to balance out some of the rookies. Some of the rookies are going to be higher rated, some are going to be lower rated. Just kind of depends. I have some players that are, that I've kind of hidden some damp traits in, that might be a lower rated player, but might end up having superstar development or even X factor, with some of these rookies. And I did that in the draft classes as well, which generally the draft classes are just essentially alter generated draft classes. I just went in and changed the names, and I'll get to those in just a second, but this is just kind of a preview of some of the roster, the names you're showing. Hopefully these actually seem like real people, especially with the portraits. That is the goal on some way of the list, to make it actually feel like these could be real human beings in whatever kind of alternate multiverse league or whatever you want to call this. Tried to play with the colleges a little bit, especially with the draft classes. Madden has a bad habit of a lot about Hefix, but with the draft classes, a lot of times you see, top-rated players from colleges that you just would never see. You'd never see like a quarterback from Army going #1 overall. So I tried to keep that in mind. Was not necessarily, uh, I have to go did a pretty good job with it. There's a few that probably slipped through, but for the most part, I think I think I did a pretty good job there, if I do say so myself. I will notice this. There are a few players that I put their nicknames in here. This is sort of like a Sauce Gardner situation, but I wanted to put their real name and the nickname as well. So, Flash Caldwell. There are a few of those you'll see from here, here and there. This is one example. I have hidden, I guess not hidden. I'm not trying to, it's not an Easter egg or anything, but you will note if there are a handful, probably, 5 or 6 pairs of what I kind of put in there as like brothers. In this case, Jared Wilder, the receiver from Virginia Tech. If you look at he's a wide receiver, you look at the corners, there is a similarly rated corner, Jermaine Wilder from Virginia Tech. The idea here being that they're brothers. There's a few of those you'll notice if you actually play the mob. Again, some of these just to kind of go into the rosters, giving you an idea of what you can expect. The plan long term here, I do plan on doing the mob for Madden 25, just kind of porting everything over to the extent that it's possible to do that. I don't know how long that's going to take. I'm hoping within 2-3 months. I don't know how realistic that is. We'll see. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and sim to the regular season. Kind of bothers me there that the logo at the bottom corner has a black background. That's not really figured out how to do a transparent effect there, but there are only a handful of screens you can actually notice it on. Let's see, 2 draft classes. This is probably the other thing that took the longest time. I have 5 draft classes here, and you can do them in any order, doesn't matter. In this case, let's just go with AFA 3. And you can use these in any franchise. They're not AFA specific, but they are, customized as far as the names are concerned. And like I said, I tried to keep the names realistic. The colleges somewhat realistic. They tried to switch it up so that it wasn't always, Alabama, LSU, Georgia at the top. A few time he might see a TCU or Nebraska, Cincinnati. But you're probably not going to see like a Navy or Army or Air Force or not to pick on the service schools, but just, you're not going to see like, Kent State with a number one overall quarterback, but, you may see, you know, uh, oh, that Boise State with one. You may see, you know, uh, I don't know, maybe even want the Totive State, which we have seen, the Houston, something like that, which isn't that far out of the realm of possibility in real life. Oh, I'm just kind of looking at the names here. That's this class. Let's see if I can import another one here. Let's go AFA 5. That's this one. Again, just sort of giving you a preview here of the draft classes. I don't, for the most part, I don't actually know who the good players are on this. I intentionally kind of left myself out here as far as looking at the ratings. I focus more on the names and the colleges. Didn't really pay attention because I do intend to play this myself, and I don't want to know who all the best prospects are right off the bat. But they are basically just auto-generated draft classes. Let me go in here, set my depth chart. And for the hirelings, I think that's the opponent. Theirs is already set. Okay. So we're going to go into a game here. Giving you a preview of what the gameplay is. And if nothing fancy about the gameplay, it's base gameplay or what you can use it with, whatever other mobs might be out there. Uniform wise, you see that, this is, default away for Detroit, default home, and you've got the alternate CPU uniform. Yeah, that's Memphis home. Memphis away, and an alternate. And that's kind of the way it's going to be for most teams. You may, like I said, occasionally see another team that will have something, a throwback or I maybe one or two like special alternates. I obviously can't remember. That's another thing I haven't been able to change is a little thing that says NFL kickoff or rivalry or whatever. That is really kind of irks me a lot. I'll figure that out eventually. All the videos in the background, modded those best I could. Now the stadiums took a long time as well. That's another thing. This is the Memphis Hounds Stadium, which I believe is the Cleveland Browns Stadium, which fits actually with the dog collar theme there. Two dog themed teams in the game, Cleveland Bulldogs and the Memphis Hounds. Coach from the sideline, all the logo should be right. You may occasionally notice something that slips through in terms of a logo or whatever. Yeah, not saying anything, everything's perfect, but it's, I think that it's pretty comprehensive. I would, yeah, not to toot my own horn here, but I feel like it's probably about the most comprehensive mod in terms of the fictional league or fictional teams that you're going to find. Literally about 2 years in the making on this from start to finish. I don't see how long it'll take me to throw an interception here. We can say gameplay. Fields are all, custom fields, championship stadiums as well. Probably won't get to show that in this video, but they are there. There's, I believe it was 9 custom championship stadiums based on the Super Bowl stadiums. Oh, what a kit. Damn. And already an entry. So, well, okay. Stadiums, I actually am probably more proud of the stadiums than I am of anything in this mod, just because I think they look really good. They look really comprehensive for the most part. I've really been able to figure out how to mob the stadium seat colors. That was the big key to this because before that, I could not figure out how to change that, and I was gonna go with generic stadiums. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, I was able to crack that particular problem, and we figured it out with help from a couple of people that I will be crediting on the actual release. And that pretty much covers it overall. We can go in real quick here to another, another stadium, another. Let's see, what's a give old hand? Let's try. How about the Scranton Pros? That's one of my favorite stadiums that I was able to mod here. I don't know if, of course, they're not playing at home. Oh, well, if Philadelphia is another good one. This is actually the backstory I've written. This is actually one of the bigger rivalries in the weed here. Just to look at some more uniforms. These are two old school teams, supposedly been around since the beginning, the oldest rivalry in the league. So their uniforms, I wanted to kind of capture that with a little bit of an old school approach, kind of simplistic, nothing too out there. They also have what I call legacy throwbacks. In this case, these are supposed to be like old school, like 1920s, 30s type uniforms. For Scranton, you see that's their away. These were based on the Packers. I think it's the 30s or 40s throwbacks. I honestly can't remember. This is an alternate and the legacy throwback. For them, of course, the legacy throwbacks are really ugly in a lot of cases, but that's intentional. And let's get into the game here. And the Philadelphia Stadium, I believe this is actually the Jaguar Stadium, which is not the most obvious choice for a Philadelphia team, but I thought it worked pretty well for what I was going for. Really like the way the videos work in the background. That wasn't hard, but it was really time consuming just to figure out how to be that and then actually don't do it. There's a lot more to it than I expected. Some of the run out props have not been able to remove, so I just kind of blacked them out so they can blend into the background a little bit. Okay. We have, transition screens there. Again, you may occasionally run into some stuff that's, NFL branded. If you do, I would like to have those things, let me know because, I may have missed something and I may be able to fix it. Well, be clear right off the bat. But if it's not something I've noticed, it may just be that, I didn't notice it. Could be that I wasn't able to fix it. There are instances of both. You got, the team slogans in the back of the end zone in most cases. Oh, come on, he got to catch that. Well, let's get out of this game. That's about it for right now. Again, right now, I'm trying to work out an issue with the salary cap because all the teams are shown over like 100 million on the salary cap. So I'm working on that. I think I've got it figured out, but it's going to take me a day or two to get it. And once I do, mine will be released for Madden 24, and it will be coming later for Madden 25. Hopefully, my goal, don't quote me on this, but by the time the Super Bowl rolls around, hopefully I'll have the 25 mod done. But again, haven't really had time to mess around with 25 a lot yet. So I'm going to try to finish this. Could be that it takes longer. Could be that it doesn't. I honestly don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, anybody have any questions? Send me a DM. I'll answer any questions you have. See y'all room.